The Scottie Barnes versus Jalen Suggs battle absolutely lived up to the hype, but it was another player in Gary Trent Jr. who probably had the biggest impact. So in today's video, we break down what you are not noticing about Gary Trent Jr. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? This is Amateur Hour Sports, your source for everything Raptors. We break down Raptors news, we do mock trades, game recaps, and so much more. So if you like the Toronto Raptors and you enjoy content in this video style, make sure you are subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports with that big button down below. Help us on the road to 8,000 subscribers, and you can enjoy 4+ Raptors videos every single week. But today, we are breaking down what we saw in the game where the Raptors took down the Orlando Magic 110-109. But the standout performer for me, for lots of people, I mean, it probably was Scottie Barnes, but we also have to give our major props to Gary Trent Jr. So in the video, we're going to talk a little bit about the Scottie Barnes versus Jalen Suggs showdown because that is what everybody wants to hear about. But we also need to have a very serious conversation about Gary Trent Jr. So the Raptors, they almost let this one slip away, but Scottie Barnes was excellent. He had 21 points on 9 for 14 shooting. He had a huge influence on the game and was absolutely stunning in the first half. But major props, Jalen Suggs was also fantastic in this game. He was 6 for 14 from the field with 21 points. A bit of a breakout performance for Suggs, who also had a very big 4-point play late on in the game to make it a 4-point game. Franz Wagner eventually made it a 1-point game, but the Raptors ultimately come away with the win. And I had the absolute extreme pleasure of being in attendance for this game as well. What a game to be a part of. And I was so nervous at the end of the game. The Raptors were up by 1. Orlando had the ball with 5.8 seconds to go, but it was Gary Trent Jr. who makes the huge play at the end of the game. Deflects it away from Cole Anthony, who had been hot all game. He was 5 for 6 from 3 on the night. He had 24 points in the game. He was fantastic all throughout the game. I didn't want him taking the last shot, and that was what I was nervous about going into the play. But Gary Trent Jr. deflects the ball away. He has been so good on defense, but that is mixed with a great offensive performance as well, with 19 points on 7 for 13 shooting. Lots of people doubted Gary Trent Jr.'s ability to play offensively coming into this season. But not only has he improved offensively, or he's been very good offensively, he has improved immensely on defense. And it's not just down to that play. That play basically won the Raptors the game because it forced Cole Anthony into a half-court shot instead of an isolation play on Gary in that situation. Gary Trent Jr. was tasked with making that play at the end of the game, and he's been making plays all throughout the season. I noticed it like a minute into his first appearance of the season against the Wizards off the bench. He has never thrived off the bench, so I didn't understand why we were benching him for Goran Dragic, who is now back-to-back did not plays. But Gary Trent, since starting, has been much better on offense, and I am so excited to see his progression. The defensive progression is so eye-opening, and people are not caring enough about this. We are not noticing Gary Trent's defense enough. He is literally one of the top defenders in the NBA statistically on his defense. He has 2.7 steals per game, which as of recording is 4th best in the NBA. He's also averaging a whopping 4.7 deflections per game, which is 2nd in the NBA, only to Jimmy Butler. So it is absolutely insane. Gary Trent has gone from, when we traded for him, he was kind of known as an average defender, but I felt like in his time with the Raptors, he kind of regressed defensively. Maybe that was a product of playing with the Raptors where it wasn't a great situation playing in Tampa, and Gary Trent has said that since switching from the West to the East, in the Western Conference, playing with Portland, he says basically you dribble up the court and shoot. But the Eastern Conference is much more defensively driven, so that has allowed him to kind of adapt his game. Maybe it took a little bit of an adjustment period when he arrived. He had to adjust to the fact that, okay, you got to play more defense on a given night. I can step up my game defensively. And I don't know what he did over the offseason, but his defensive awareness, his positioning, and just a sense to go reach in has completely taken a 180. I thought he was a little bit of an under-average defender when he was with the Raptors for the end of last season, but his offense was great. His offense was absolutely great. He improved a lot from when he was at Portland because he had a much better role with the Raptors, and we utilized him a little bit better than Terry Stotts did at Portland. So his offense has grown a little bit. the defense. I am absolutely blown away. And I think that more people need to take note of this because as the season was getting started after preseason, it's no joke. It's no lie. Gary Trent Jr. was quite awful in the preseason for the Toronto Raptors. And many people turned on him. A lot of NBA neutrals turned on Gary Trent Jr., especially after getting that $18 million a year contract in the offseason. And even Raptors fans started to turn on Gary Trent Jr., calling him overpaid. And I think Gary Trent Jr. is repaying everything that we gave him. I get that it's early in the season, but if he can keep consistent like this with his offense, which he was great yesterday against the Magic, if he can keep doing that and also maintain this exponential growth defensively, Gary Trent Jr. is going to be a sensational player for this team. The $18 million contract I felt was right at the ceiling of what I would have given him. So it's right at the top of my budget, so it is within my budget, but I was kind of happy with the contract. I thought it was a good contract for that reason, and he is showing absolutely why. Before the season started, or right when the season started, I made a full video dedicated to defending Gary Trent Jr. because a lot of people were criticizing him immensely. He had been injured, he wasn't quite right in preseason, and he also was coming off the bench. Gary Trent Jr. last season with the Raptors averaged, I think it was something like 17 points per game as a starter and 5 points per game coming off of the bench. So he thrives in the starter setting. We know this. That is a criticism because it's the NBA. You have to be able to play in multiple roles. You have to be able to come off the bench in certain situations and still be the same player. But Gary Trent, for some reason, just seems to thrive as a starter. So since we have begun using him as a starter more regularly, he has been great. He continues to be great. But it's not necessarily the offense. The offensive stuff isn't really surprising me. We were expecting Gary Trent to break out a little bit more offensively here, but I never would have ever predicted, and even in my video where I said, you guys are wrong about Gary Trent Jr., maybe not you, but some of you out there, you were wrong about Gary Trent Jr., you were wrong to criticize him. I thought that the offense would come. Even in that video, I never mentioned the fact that he could improve this much defensively. And it's come at the exact right time because like a week before the season started, Tim McAuliffe of Sportsnet sat down for an interview with Nick Nurse. And he was asking about a little bit about Gary Trent Jr.'s defensive development. And it almost seemed like Nick Nurse in that interview was frustrated by the lack of the development coming from Gary Trent Jr. You could really feel the frustration in his voice because the Raptors are a defense-first team. And he alluded to the fact that Gary Trent is not that. But all of a sudden, Gary Trent Jr., I don't know if that interview really sparked anything because out of nowhere, he has been one of the better defenders in the league, one of the better ones in the league at getting those steals, getting the hand in and getting that deflection. Even Nick Nurse is bewildered and surprised by this development. So Gary Trent Jr. has solidified an excellent spot with the Toronto Raptors team. We are 500. The question is now going to be when Pascal Siakam returns to the team, well, my goodness, which player do you take out? Because originally I would have said Gary Trent Jr. in a heartbeat. Scottie Barnes has been way too good to take off the floor, so you got to start him. I would start OG Anunoby at the 2, and then you have Scottie Barnes at the 3, Pascal Siakam at the 4. You still have Fred and Precious Achiuwa. But now I'm thinking, well, how the hell are you going to take Gary Trent Jr. out? And I just mentioned Gary Trent Jr. is so much better as a starter. You can't take out Fred VanVleet. If you take out Precious Achiuwa, that's probably the easiest one to take out. But then your center rotation is a little bit ruined because you want to get Precious minutes, but you also want to get Khem Birch his minutes. So you can't, I mean, you could put them both on the floor and take away Chris Boucher's minutes. That's not that bad of an idea, but I don't think Achiuwa and Birch would work on the floor at the same time. So Gary Trent Jr. is like, okay, maybe we take him out. But the question is not obvious. And also, if you take out Achiuwa, then Siakam or OG have to play as a center. And I really, really, really don't want to see that happen again. But Gary Trent is making the case here because a week ago it would have been like easy. Take out Gary Trent Jr., start Siakam there, move OG up to the 2, play with a big lineup. I think that'll work. It's a very positionless lineup. I think it will still work. But now the way Gary Trent is playing, the way he's shooting, how he can shoot us out of our cold stretches sometimes, and how he can still be a part of this team defensively, it has been utterly sensational, the improvements that he's showing. More people should be taking notice. You as Raptors fans should be taking notice of this progression. Gary Trent Jr. last season when we made the trade, Many Raptors fans, we came around to it very quickly because Gary Trent broke out like almost like he was going to be a future star. And I think that still kind of is the case. He is going to be a great player. He's very young. In the offseason, many people were clamoring that this was a horrible trade for the Raptors, but we're seeing why the trade was made. Gary Trent Jr. is the shooting guard that this team needs. When we're in that cold stretch, sometimes he is just that guy that creates the shot for himself when we really, really need it. Is his efficiency a question? Yeah. Sometimes he's inefficient. Sometimes he's very inefficient. Yesterday was not one of those games, but I understand he's a very inconsistent shooter. But when he's on, like he was yesterday, the consistency seems to be coming a little bit more often. And as a young player who's continuing to develop, I think that there is some great signs about Gary Trent Jr., and I am so excited to see what he can produce for the rest of the season. The big question is going to remain, will he be a starter when Pascal Siakam is back? I'm going to trust Nick Nurse to make the right decision here, but I just had to basically rant. Like, what's the positive form of a rant? Whatever the positive form of a rant is, that's what I'm doing. I had to let everything out about how amazed and shocked and wowed I am by Gary Trent Jr.'s defensive progression. And I'm letting you know that you should be as well. So what was your thoughts and opinions on the Barnes versus Suggs showdown? I mean, both players were fantastic, but the Raptors get the upper hand with the win. Let me know everything in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please give a like on this video if you did enjoy. It really goes a long way to helping support the channel. And I mean, if you're still here, clearly you enjoyed the video. Let's get to 250 likes. You can also subscribe to this channel. It's completely free to do. Let's get to 8,000 subscribers on this channel. And when you subscribe, you stay up to date with the 4+ videos we put out every single week, all concerning the Toronto Raptors. The links next to my head are the MHR TV channel with the purple logo. And I mean, I was at the game yesterday, so I vlogged my experience. Watch the vlog on that channel. It will be out very soon. I mean, if you're watching this video half an hour late, this vlog is already out. And in the bottom right corner is MHR Clips, the best highlights from our Twitch streams. We do post-game show for every single game. We'll see you again next time for another video.